It's November 26th, so to everyone in America who's listening, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have a blessed and enjoyable time with your families or whoever you're spending it with. And hopefully, this season between now and Christmas will be special, safe, and an enjoyable time for you and those close to you. Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. In this episode, we're just going to have a quick look at the defense case that I've heard a couple of arguments about, and just very briefly why they don't make any sense. So I think the first point to make is, if you're going to make the claim that Chris Watts killed Shan'ann in response to her killing his own children, the biggest problem with that is, when Nutgate happened, he didn't seem to have a problem with that at all. In other words, if he was such a tiger for his own children, the way that Shan'ann was, then if he'd heard that there was some kind of threat to her life or some kind of serious danger, that he would have interceded, that he would have gotten angry, he would have been activated, he would have spoken to his mother in no uncertain terms, because to the extent that he was so upset about it, right? So that's the first point to make, is that the whole argument that Chris Watts killed Shan'ann because she'd killed his own kids doesn't line up to how he behaved when apparently Cece's life was in danger. The other thing is, the day before this happened, he got a babysitter. So his mind wasn't even preoccupied with his children. His mind was preoccupied with his mistress. And that brings us to the real motive here is, are you telling me that Chris Watts killed Shan'ann because of the children, because she killed the children, with no thought in terms of his mistress? Are you telling me that the fact that he was having an affair at the time, the fact that him and Shan'ann were arguing at the time, the fact that he was kind of late in trying to secure a divorce with her where he'd already told Kessinger that was happening, are you telling me that had nothing to do with the situation, it was all to do with something that Shan'ann did? No, I don't think so. You're telling me the 5 or 6 weeks that he was having this affair, that he felt addicted, that he couldn't think about anything else, you're telling me that that's irrelevant? No, I don't think so. Now, although, as far as I know, the defense case that is being fielded at the moment is basically just the first confession, right? So I realize the first confession is basically that Chris Watts, I think, stumbled upon Shan'ann strangling their children, and then he strangled her. Interestingly, in his first story, he went downstairs. So he was on the stairs himself when the children were murdered. That is where he locates himself, on the stairs. And then the first thing he does, in other words, when he's to some extent aware that something is going on that shouldn't be happening, he changes direction on the stairs, and then he sort of runs back up the stairs, not into one of the girls' bedrooms, but into the main bedroom, and that's not even where Shan'ann is. He sees Shan'ann on the baby monitor. Now, I just want to sketch to you how absurd this is. So the first thing is, according to him, he'd seen Shan'ann strangling Celeste, and he almost kind of interrupted her. So Bella had already died in the story, and Shan'ann was busy strangling Cece when he kind of attacked Shan'ann from behind. And at no point does he say something like he checked Bella, he checked Cece for signs of life, even Bella. That he didn't call 911, he didn't attempt CPR. And what that kind of shows is that he really didn't care about his children. Besides all that, he was able to give these interviews and not shed a tear. When he was in front of his co-workers, he didn't shed a tear. So if you're trying to say that Shan'ann killed his children and then he had the wherewithal to act like it didn't bother him, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would he need to act that it didn't bother him? And why did it look like it didn't bother him, right? Then, and I realize this is a bit of a departure, but in his second confession, his story was something like that Shan'ann said, you can't have the children. If you're getting divorced, I'm going to take full custody, right? And then he murders her. And then he also murders the children. Now, what doesn't make any sense in that is if he's now murdering Shan'ann because of a custody issue, with her out of the way, well, he should then get custody. And if he really wanted custody, then that would have been enough. But he didn't want custody. That is why he murdered the children. He didn't want not only custody of the children, he didn't want to maintain them, look after them, all that kind of thing. Does that make sense? Does that make sense in terms of the criminal psychology? So in other words, if just based on his second confession, he said he murdered Shan'ann because she threatened him to take away the children. But then why on earth would he kill his own children if she threatened to take them away? I mean, now he's taking them away from himself. Why would he do that? I do think the process in his criminal psychology started off with he could have divorced Shan'ann fairly easily if she wasn't pregnant. The fact that she was pregnant spoke of two things. The one is, as far as Shan'ann was aware, their marriage was sort of okay, and they were still married and whatnot. The other thing was that the fact that she was pregnant meant if Nicole Kessinger found out, I'm talking about like right in the beginning, she probably wouldn't have gone out with him. Now, I know there are a lot of you that want to believe Nicole Kessinger knew that Shan'ann was pregnant and went along with things all along. I know some of you want to believe that because you want to believe Kessinger's as horrible as she can possibly be. But imagine if you were in her shoes. Imagine if you, the mistress, how would you feel if the guy you're interested in, who you like and he likes you, well, his partner is pregnant? How would you feel about that? Would it be a big deal to you? Now, I have no doubt that Kessinger found out at some point that Shan'ann was pregnant, but I think Chris Watts just lied about it when she did find out. He said something like, well, it's not my child. And he may have said something like, the father is in North Carolina, that's why she's in North Carolina, right? And him saying that he's going to North Carolina, I think he may have said to Kessinger something like, well, I'm going to North Carolina because I need to see my kids or to finalize the divorce or whatever it was. But, obviously it wasn't the actual reason he was going there, which was, in terms of Shan'ann, it was to sort of celebrate their, I think it's their 8-year dating anniversary and just celebrate where they met, where they got engaged and all that kind of thing. And so, the way Shan'ann knew it wasn't the way that it was actually the way probably Kessinger sort of thought about it, if that makes sense. But what I'm getting at is, for Chris Watts, the biggest threat to his relationship with Kessinger was the unborn child, because Kessinger felt, wow, I want to have a first with you. You've been there, done that. I want to have a first with you. How can I have a first with you? Well, you don't have a boy at this point. I want to give you a boy, right? And there's now a rumor that Kessinger as a child, if it's true, it would be interesting to know, is it a boy or a girl? Because you can't just snap your fingers and have a boy or a girl if you decide to. it's in the hands of the fates to some extent. In any event, he wanted to give her kind of a first. She wanted a first. She wanted to be treated as a first in his life. And for whatever reason, but I think that was part of the reason, that's why he wanted to get rid of Nico. And that's how the criminal psychology got its start. He first wanted to get rid of his unborn child, and then he made at least 2 attempts on the life of his unborn child. Then he tried to then I think he thought, well, I can't get rid of the baby the way that I've tried to. I'm gonna have to talk to Shan'ann. And then Shan'ann wasn't going to go along with it, and then that's when it went from the unborn child to Shan'ann and the unborn child. And then I think he thought, well, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I might as well go the whole way and get rid of everybody. And that is essentially what he did. And I think that kind of thinking just shows that he wasn't really thinking properly. He was addicted. He may have been sleep deprived. I think he was very flattered by by Kessinger's pursuit of him. As an introvert with not a lot of experience, he wasn't used to a woman chasing after him. And I think also the fact that she gave him a key. I wouldn't say it's a fact. It's something that is alleged. I think that also was like a big moment for him. And I think you could say he panicked, or that the moment is too great for him and he didn't know what to do with it. And what he did was he kind of fast-tracked the divorce. The murders were like an instant divorce, if I can put it that way. And all of that kind of makes sense, in terms of the criminal psychology. The story that he just snapped and he didn't know what he was doing, and Shan'ann did this and that, none of that makes any sense. I'm sure a lot of you realize this, but I just thought I would provide a quick video making it quite clear. Just sort of being quite clear and simple about the criminal psychology. Anyway, I hope you found it interesting. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Like, share, leave a comment. And I'll see you guys next time.